It is feasible for an individual who could be subjectively described as selfish to progress through making the right choices and be qualified to call herself Shariak. A splendid luminosity was reflected in the girl's eyes. At this moment, the area they were splitting finally started to enter the last stage of fusion. By common sense, people think that destructive things are wicked and ugly. But anyone who has watched a nuclear explosion from a safe distance tends to reach another type of consensus. That which is destructive can have its own beauty as well, a magnificent purity that can dazzle any creature. Of course, this girl would definitely not think of it like this, even facing such magnificence. At this very moment, she could not conceal her fear. Your heart rate is regular. Indeed, whether it was an explosion or fusion, despite the different forms, the real reason behind the destruction of the fallen star is likely due to the energy impact it experienced. Even though she didn't voice it, having witnessed past speculations, she could not help but admit deep within herself, if the supposed Last Judgment truly exists, it must be as pure as the view that presented itself before her eyes now. How is Miss L? The connection hasn't been cut, but it's been a long time since she gave any message. To be precise, that area has fallen into complete silence. Maybe this is what it means when they say no news is good news. For her, would the signal we send be the same? Hard to say, but from the current observation, even if we can transmit a message successfully, she might not be able to spare her attention to comprehend it. It is hard to imagine how she would maintain her shape under such circumstances. Even for ideas, it was not easy. In everyone's imaginations, being engulfed by an aggressive stream of needles might be more comfortable in comparison to the relentless onslaught of such energy. But now, in order to complete the plan she had devised, she could not lose consciousness. She heightened her sensitivity to the flow and aligned herself to it. For those on the other side, this was a future they knew a long time before. But in reality, this was just a misinterpretation. Even though she suffered a profound and unparalleled pain, its source was not the apocalypse, but a death match, even a punishment. For the girls, all that they could do was wait with conflicted emotions. They hoped this process would be quick and brief to spare their companion from too much pain, but they also worried about the moment when the results would be revealed. Ultimately, they remained uncertain about their current attempt. And so, as they held such conflicted feelings, the light faded. Once the flood generated from the fusion had engulfed everything, there was no space left for the idea. Yet the deathly silence continued. It ended just like that. Subconsciously, she tried to turn her sight to the main character of this moment, and even forgot that Miss L never existed corporeally. Even if it's futile, I can try my best to leave valuable clues before I go. She still remembered Miss L's previous statement. However, the professor, who was the only one who could listen, explained their current situation with silence. Seems like it was too much.
还是太勉强了吗？
She stole a subtle glance at the silent AI and tried to adopt a positive tone. But this doesn't prove anything. Maybe she isn't speaking because everything is going well.
或许她什么都不说，是因为一切都很顺利。接下来
What
呢？
now? Is there
还有
anything
什
we
么
can
事
do?
是我们可以尽力去做的吗？
Sure. Maybe it's too early to decide our next step.
或许还太早了一点。
Too early?
太早。
Yes, from what I
就
understand
我所
about
了
Miss
解的那个
Dao,
米斯特林来说，
what we just saw cannot be her
可
final
能是她的
goodbye.
最后一面。
Let's take a look at the last area she was in before she disappearance. This is Miss Dao.
米斯特林她难道没事？
Everything's okay? You're being too optimistic. This is only the dreamland she left behind for us. A dreamland. So she did leave something for
她还是为
us.
我们留下了些什么？
Yes, sometimes she
有些时候
deliberately
她会
makes
刻意
simple
把简单
things
的事
much
情
more
往复杂去
complicated,
做。
purely based on her desire to perform.
她
She
恐
has the
怕也有成为
potential to
偶像
become
的
an
潜质。
idol. Though
虽然
maybe
这
it
一
really
次
was out of
或许的
desperation
确
this
是出
time.
于无奈。
So,
嗯，
number 17, your guess is
你的
correct.
猜测没错。
A distant voice flew out from the dreamland.
它的
It
确
really
存在，
does exist,
而
and
且就是
it's... But just then, the idea's words were distorted instantly into indistinguishable echoes. What's
怎么
going
回事？
on? It was like waking from a dream. Even though it should have been critically important, Miss Dell's muttering were the same as in most dreams. People could recall its existence, but found it hard to ascertain its content. Prometheus, was that
刚才那
normal?
是
Would the same
正
thing
常的吗？
happen in the dreamland she
或许
left
她留下
behind
的梦
before?
境也会出现这种情况吗？
Strictly speaking, I cannot be sure. Up till today, I find it hard to understand her
我也
logic.
很难揣度她的行事逻辑。
But even though we don't know the reason, she could still
既然
confirm
她在
that
最后
my
一
guess
刻
was right
还是给
at
出
her
了我
last
的猜测
moments.
没错这种判断。
So what exactly does that
恐
mean?
怕要等一
I'm
下
afraid
才
you'll
能向
have
你
to
详
wait
细解
a
释
while
了。
before I can explain it
在
in
此之前，
detail. Before
史蒂
that,
博士，
Dr. Schrödinger,
请你
please help me
尽快地
confirm
速
the
地帮
Herrscher
我
of
确认
Sentience
失之者
location
的
as
位
quickly
置。
as
无
possible.
论他正在
Whatever
尝
she's
试些什
trying
么，
right now, she
都
needs
要
to be
立刻
stopped
阻止他。
immediately.
失
Herrscher
之
of
者，
Sentience. I once
我
asked
曾
her
对
for a
他提出过
favor,
一个请
although it
求，
seemed necessary at the
虽然在
time.
那时看来很
Now,
有必要，但现在
I
我
cannot
绝
let
不
her
能为
die
了
for
一项已
nothing
知的
at
情
hands
报，
of
让
our
他白白死
enemy
在我们
for a
的敌
piece of
人手中。
information we already have. Don't compare me to her. No, I should say it. Never mind, she's just mediocre at best. No matter how good she may be at this, she cannot surpass the Hersher of sentience. Okay, I'll repeat once more. To avoid confusion, I previously addressed her as the 8th Hersher, but she was actually equal to a Hersher of sentience. In precise terms, you have the authority of sentience because she tried to lower the difficulty of that power when she once appeared in the previous era. Who cares about difficulty? In the end, she's still mediocre. You're actually demeaning yourself. I'm not trying to stop you. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, you surely can do the things that she's able to. After some thinking, she considered the Hersher's temperament. To move the conversation forward, she departed from her usual approach and added, After all, in terms of what you have achieved by your cognitive abilities, the present you is truly unmatched. Well, it's not actually. Though it's true, no need to flatter me. You're right. After all, it said you've already used similar tactics when you fought Kevin. Kevin? What you're talking about? Yes, when chatting before, Sila mentioned that back then you countered Kevin using the common sentience in Project Sigma, thus making yourself invincible. And for the 8th Hersher of the previous era, that is her main tactic too. So, I get it. Yes, it's simple enough. Maybe even you can guess. Are you thinking of making me devour the whole world, then making a run for it? Okay, it seems like I need to explain more. Before this, we've already confirmed the existence of something resembling a base mechanism of the cocoon of finality. In order to operate it with precision and accuracy, the base mechanism must be unaltered. For example, if I only discovered that the structure's base code had additional hardware degradation now, I'm afraid I have to ignore it. Otherwise, the ripple effect brought by imprudent changes would be worse than the problem I discovered in the first place. I understand what you mean. But can't you speak in simpler terms? Just ignore that example then. Anyway, since the base mechanism exists, it wouldn't just constrain us, it would constrain the other party too. This means we can make use of it just by finding a suitable entry point. But at the same time, there is an even riskier possibility. There's a will that is applying micro or macro adjustment to the base mechanism. What's the problem? Didn't you say the base mechanism is difficult to alter? Whether someone is watching over it or not makes no difference. Changing it will come at a huge cost. But if there is a will involved, and it deems making changes at a certain point as worth the cost, at that point there is a chance that they can counter our plan that makes advantages of the established rules. So that's why I made a personal request of you before you set off. Assuming it's safe, utilize your authority to contaminate all the sentience in this bubble universe to take control of our current situation, just like the 8th Hersher of the previous era. Is that necessary? Isn't someone who can do that a true god? The opponent can just snap his finger and put an end to us. It's much less work after all. Since that has not happened, then what you spoke of, even if it does exist, doesn't pose a large threat. This is something I do not fully understand yet. That will may not be as powerful as the mechanism it created. With that said, the previous 8th Hersher and the Hersher of corruption, they relied on a small investment for a big payoff, which brought humanity almost to total destruction. So I feel very fortunate that the Herrscher of Sentience is on our side. Moreover, the bubble universe we are in is much smaller than the real world. Pausing at precisely the right moment, her intention to provoke the Herrscher of Sentience became apparent. This was because she understood. Just you wait. The will you just mentioned, I hope it doesn't even exist. Otherwise, if it ever gets into my sight. It'll be so much fun. Among all the people that the AI had ever seen, this lady was definitely enjoying this type of communication the most. Well, I won't spoil your fun. But the thing you just mentioned about devouring the whole world, although it may sound dubious and lead to misunderstandings, I want to hear your thoughts. Maybe this could provide some new perspective for everyone. After that, the hypothesis provided by Herrscher of Sentience was easily ruled out by Prometheus. Owing to its absurdity, it didn't even need much complex explanation. And the content of this hypothesis was not important anymore. Whatever the meaning of devour she had in mind, right now, she was the one who had been fully devoured. At this moment, what they faced was an absurd circumstance that they could not believe. The Herrscher of Sentience, she disappeared. The last location where the Herrscher of Sentience appeared is in just ahead. At least that's what we think. These are sun servants. Why are they here? And looks like they don't want us to get across. Get out of my way. This residual energy is really like the Herrscher of Sentience signature. It seems like a fierce battle took place here. But now, there are no monsters. It was silent. An optimistic speculation is that maybe the Herrscher of Sentience wiped out all the enemy before she disappeared. But if we're not so optimistic, the monsters disappeared because of their enemy disappeared. These the enemies that Herrscher of Sentience face, regardless of their number. For a Herrscher to struggle with enemies of this caliber is too ridiculous, right? Xia and I think so too. Though the Herrscher of Sentience talks a lot, she's not all bragging. To be someone she deemed a worthy rival, it couldn't be a regular enemy. So we can guess that the enemy she faced was someone else. Could it be there are other enemies aside from Sa? An enemy that not even the Herrscher could handle. Wait, look, what is that? Is this Herrscher of Sentience weapon? She fought here. Looks more like she got cursed off here. That doesn't make sense. She went to all this trouble just to make sure we can help her. But who can curse the Herrscher of Sentience? We've never seen someone like that in this world. I don't think so. You're looking at. What was it? Say her name again? Herrscher of Yeah, even if she lost the fight, as pure consciousness, she shouldn't leave anything physical. You're right. Apparently, something happened when we were distracted. But this isn't something we can explain. Let's go find the others. Prometheus should have made other discoveries, but the Herrscher of Sentience. Don't worry about her. She may be weak, but she's still a Herrscher. On the other hand, looking at the sky, she wouldn't admit, but more or less, she had begun to suspect that she was up against some deity. This is. Without question, what had appeared before them was a residual belonging to the Herrscher of Sentience. However, they just made everything all the more bizarre. She couldn't have conjured up this just to give us a scare, right? That'd be too much. And it's not her style at all. I'm aware, but from what I know, the Herrscher of Sentience before us doesn't have a human body. She's more like a holo projection from the cocoon of finality, a being that's hard to distinguish between physical matter or energy. Now, a fragment of her holo projection remains, where the whereabouts of the owner unknown. Maybe something went wrong with the cocoon of finality, but that's impossible with Kiana here, unless. This is just a cruel joke from someone tired of living. No, there's a third scenario as well. Other Sila, you're right. Originally, there were only those two possibilities, providing she is still the Herrscher of Sentience, or rather, the real world and cocoon of finality's Herrscher of Sentience. What are you trying to say? Before the Herrscher of Sentience left, I gave her a task.